Hey, what's up, guys? You're listening to episode 13 of Speaking Wrestling with Elvis Arroyo. And as always, I am your host, Elvis Arroyo. If you're returning to the podcast, I want to thank you guys so much. And if this is your first time listening to the podcast, thank you so much for checking us out. And it's a good week because this week I'm going to give you guys a quick take on AEW's Fight for the Fallen, Extreme Rules 2019 recap. Also going to be talking Raw and SmackDown. Going to give you guys something to watch. And I'm going to give you guys my MVPs and floppers of the week, so stick around for that at the end of the show. But before we get into all that, I want to give you guys a reminder that if you guys want to get connected with this podcast, be sure to go over to Twitter and follow us at Speaking Wrestle. You can find us over at Speaking Wrestling on Instagram, guys. And be sure to like and subscribe over on YouTube to this page. And also, I want to give a quick shout out to Wrestling Picks over on Instagram for giving us a quick shout out this week. So thank you so much for that, Wrestling Picks on Instagram. All right, let's get to it, guys. We got a lot to get into, and this was an eventful weekend of wrestling. It was wrestling galore, wrestling pandemonium, to say the least. And it was topped off with a great show on Sunday. But before that, let's get into Saturday, where it all went down. There was about 4 shows going on. And if you are a junkie for wrestling, you definitely got your fix on Saturday, as there was MLW Fusion was on. There was the G1 Climax for New Japan Wrestling. There was also the Evolve 10th Anniversary Show, which featured NXT champion Adam Cole defending the NXT Championship against Akira Tozawa. We also saw the Cruiserweight champion Drew Gulak go one-on-one against Matt Riddle, and a special appearance by Paul Heyman. And this event was held at the 2300 Arena, formerly known as the ECW Arena. So quite the surprise for Paul Heyman to make a return to his old home, the old stomping grounds of Paul Heyman. Quite the surprise there. Great show. But Saturday, if we're talking about any show, we're talking about the AEW's presentation of Fight for the Fallen. And guys, I'm going to be quite honest with you guys about this show. I did not like this show, and I'm going to give you guys my quick take on what I thought about the show and why I didn't like it. And look, guys, from the very beginning of this show, realize that the hard cam position was going to be the hard cam position for the rest of the show, and I didn't like that. I just really thought that a venue like that, you really have to shoot it at a different way than you would shoot in an arena. And I think they were going more for an arena inside an auditorium. This was for concert halls, and they try to make this into a makeshift arena, like a normal setting for like a WWE show. And it doesn't work out like that. You don't try to make something into something that it's not. I think you have to work with the elements that you got. I didn't like it, and I really thought that they could have utilized the stage for the cam presentation. Yeah, and there might be some flack for having, just one entire side be a hard cam, but WWE does it, so you're gonna get flack either way. But there's different ways that you can film in a setting like this when you're shooting at a theater or a concert hall. And NXT does a very good job of this, because when they go on these road trips of these live events, they're at concert halls. They're at venues where you go see bands or you go see a theater, and they find a way to make the stage be the stage, the entranceway, the way that it should be, because the crowd and the seating that they had presentation, it just really made that big building, because it was big. And when the camera panned out to the bleachers or to the tier levels of the seatings up on top, you see that it's a big building. I really think that the placement of this camera, just speculation, is that the Khan family really wanted that Daily Place sign to be featured when you're, tuning into this event, if you're watching on BR Live. And, I kind of have a feeling with that, and that's kind of have a feeling with how a lot of this event goes. It's more of, doing favors for others and, getting your stuff in, for the sake of self-promotion, which is great. You don't want to knock someone down for them trying to get their stuff out there, but you got to balance what's more important. Is it the business side or the presentation? And I really think that the hard camera position the way it was, and not finding a way to position it in a different way, because you're not dealing with a standard wrestling venue. This is, like I said, it's an outdoor auditorium. And again, outdoor in July in Florida, it was hot. You can see the fans in the stands, waving their fans for the show going on over 4 hours. This went well into the East Coast time, close to midnight. It ran on a long time, and that's one of the things that, to me, I believe, brought the show down a little bit. A lot of these matches dragged on. The show dragged on. I wasn't finding anything intriguing or amusing with this show at any point. It was a clusterfuck, to say, also throughout this event. But look, I'm not going to say that the show was shit, because it wasn't. There's great talent, and there's great young bright talent that was showcased in this show, and it's nice to see that AEW does have that in their back pocket. They have depth to their roster, and they have very good young depth. Caught the eyes and attention of a lot of the fans, and myself as well. Darby Allin, MJF is one of my personal favorites from, I've been watching him on MLW. But you see other guys come into the fold that you haven't seen before, and they get a little bit of time to shine in this. There's some people that I hope and wish to never get an opportunity to shine again. That being that women's match, Allie and Brandy Rhodes. It was horrible. Look, it's terrible. I don't want to see someone that didn't cut it out in Impact, and someone that never really meant to be a wrestler and is training now. It just didn't work out for me. But there are elements of the show that did work out for me, and then there was hit and misses. I think production issues are still a factor for this company. This being their third show and their third pay-per-view. These are big shows, and these aren't television shows, and it makes you wonder and think that they got to kick a lot of these mishaps and a lot of these errors to the curb, because the television is going to be here anytime soon, and days go by faster than a hiccup. For them to still have a lot of these issues not worked out, costing them a lot of trust from the fans and from viewerships. And there's the lapsed wrestling fans, there's the hardcore fans, and there's the casual fans, and what you present to them counts. And we live in this time and era where we know more than what we should know about professional wrestling, and still find ways to enjoy it, but at the same time nitpicking the hell out of it. So a lot of these errors have to be worked out. You got to work out your kinks before the big show, and they have their biggest show that they're promoting, which is another pay-per-view show, and this one is a pay-per-view show. Like I said, they have been presenting these shows, the Fighter Fest and the Fight for Fallen, as these specials, kind of like a Clash of the Champions or those Starcades back in the day, or a Saturday night main event from WWE, free on TV. But the next show is All Out in Chicago, and there's news already going on that CM Punk is scheduled to be at StarCast. Who knows if he's going to be on the show, or if he's going to be making his announcement that he is signed with AEW. No word yet on if he's still signed with UFC, which would then, clear up ways for him to make his way over to AEW. Talking on the business side and on the TV production side of AEW, the next show might have some fans thinking, whether it is worth to buy it or not. And I think a show like this, when you're building up to your next show, which is the show, because it's going to be the show where you're going to present your first world champion, and it's the return to the place really that's just started this idea and got this company off the feet from their show at All In last year, this one being called All Out, and it will be Labor Day weekend this year, guys, August 31st. And seen by one big issue that still plagues this company, if we're talking about All In last year, is timing. And this show proved that timing is everything. And when you have an audience sitting out there in over 90 degrees humidity weather, and the show's going over 4 hours long on East Coast time, and the show is really just dragging. Point blank, the way that this show was set up was not set up in a way that was going to keep you entertained. It was to set up to put on this big event and celebrate a charitable cause for what this event was also there for was they're raising money for victims of gun violence, which is a great cause. And it's something good to have in the back pocket, that this company is doing some great things, good charitable work, good public work. But the end, really capped off that, this show and this company doesn't got their shit worked out. And that's one thing that, when the Young Bucks were on Chris Van Vliet's podcast, or actually his YouTube interview last week, I listened to that 40-minute interview, and, they talked a lot about their ideas, and they talked a lot about, how they work and how they manage. But like I said, speaking on last week's podcast, for 40 minutes at the end of it, I really got the idea that these guys don't know what they're doing. And I still think that they don't know what they're doing. I'm not shitting on the company. Yes, this is a little bit of that phase where you give them the benefit of the doubt because they are a new company. And look, I can't go harsh on this company because they are not on TV, because you really prove yourself once you get to the TV level. For the company like AEW, who is branding themselves as an alternative. Now, I don't believe they're in competition. If you believe that they're in competition with the WWE, you can have that idea. I don't think so. And Cody is, sometimes gets a little bit over his head. And, by that ending, when they brought out the check for it, and the timing of the show was just so bad. Apparently, there was supposed to be a promo at the end with the Young Bucks and Cody and Dustin, but that got cut up short, and that's just a big no-no, that, your promo storyline gets cut off because you got to present a check, and then everybody goes off script. I don't know. It just really, puts a buzzkill on the excitement for wrestling. And that last match, main event, kudos to those guys for going out there and performing, and doing everything they can. But the match really dragged on a lot. I really do think that the match with Kenny and Shima, that match just dragged on so long. And again, those guys are going out there and working their asses off. But I just don't think that you need to have a 4-hour pay-per-view type of event, and every single match needs to be a main event, needs to be full-on Broadway. It needs to be, 5-star classic, so, Dave Meltzer can rate it 5 stars. It doesn't need that. And I think that's one thing that they lacked on the show, is the structure and building of their characters. You don't need to have every single match where every guy busts out all their moves 5-6 times, and it's just never ending. Who cares about that? At this point, the fans have already paid their money and chose to invest their time into you. So just give them a show, and not go out there and try to present, indie-rific, habits. And I think that's one thing that plagues a lot of this talent is, you got to act like you've been there instead of, act like you're trying to get there. And I feel like, that's maybe one of the habits and kinks that a lot of these men and women have. They are still working independent shows as we speak, but until this October, everybody that's on contract is going to be exclusive to AEW, and anybody else coming in, will sign an exclusive deal with the company. But until then, a lot of these men and women still have tactics from the indies, and those tactics comes out when they are trying to, work the audience rather than just go out there and present who they are already, and the audience take it for what it is. All right, guys, that's Fight for the Fallen review. Let's move on to the next. This is Extreme Rules 2019 recap, and this was a great show. I mean, start to finish, I gotta say, this was a good show. In the pre-show, we saw Shinsuke Nakamura become the new Intercontinental Champion. Drew Gulak still retain his Cruiserweight Championship against Tony Nese. This show was great. I gotta say, the New Day once again becoming tag team champions in this. We got Bayley retaining against Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross. Great show. The new champions, AJ Styles capturing the United States Championship over Ricochet. That was a great match from those guys. Also, Kofi Kingston still WWE champion over Samoa Joe, and the Revival and Usos. Man, this was a great match. I want to talk about this match because I wrote down in my notes this week to mention that the Usos and the Revival, they've had some great matches on TV and on pay-per-view in the past recent months, but I really thought that this one was one where maybe they got the green light to, hey, go out there and just work. And this was a good match. I would say go back and watch this. And that Cesaro and Aleister Black match was one of my favorites. I think that was one that I was anticipating going into the pay-per-view, and watching this, I enjoyed it all the way through. This was exactly what I thought it was going to be. And for a lot of those that were, thinking why Cesaro and not Bray Wyatt, and I hope you were entertained by this match, because I was. It was hard-hitting brawl from these two guys. Great athleticism from Cesaro in this match, and he had a great counter opponent in this, in Aleister Black, and good showcasing for him as well. You got a guy like Cesaro in there who's going to take those hits, and he delivered a hard black mass to Cesaro and got the 1-2-3. Great win. And also Braun Strowman in the last man standing match. This match was amazing. I really love the work that Bobby Lashley's been putting in this past year, and Braun Strowman as well. He's got such a great connection with this audience, and this match was Braun Strowman all the way babyface, working with a great talent in Bobby Lashley, who, once again, you got two guys who can go out there and give each other blow after blow, hit after hit, and they're taking it and making it look great for the other guy. The finish to this was just unbelievable. You got them battling all over the arena there in Philadelphia, and then they went up over one of the tunnels in the arena, and it kind of had a makeshift it seemed like they worked on this. So Braun Strowman lifts up Lashley and delivers a power slam, and they disappear and they fall down. You don't know where they went. It seems like they crashed into some makeshift kind of like room to block out one of the tunnels. And the referee's almost at the 8 count, and here comes Braun Strowman busting out through these walls, and he picks up the victory. What a great match. Go back and watch that. It's great wrestling. I love it when they go into the crowd, and they do go out into the concourse of the arena. So good stuff. It reminds me of, when you're playing those old SmackDown 2, Know Your Role, in like the backstage area, and there's all these like Easter eggs all over the place. This was a fun match. And also Extreme Rules. Speaking of Extreme Rules, we got a tag team match. Shane McMahon, Drew McIntyre going up against the team of Roman Reigns and The Undertaker. Guys, this actually kicked off the pay-per-view. This was an unbelievable match. I really, really enjoyed this. What a way to kick off this pay-per-view. Undertaker was impressive. I mean, if you think that Undertaker coming back to work this match was to make up and brush off that embarrassing win over Goldberg in Saudi Arabia last month, yes, you are indeed right. And The Undertaker came out looking so good. He was in amazing shape. He was moving around great. I know a few weeks ago when you thought about this, it's just like Undertaker. And I know, like I said, with that Goldberg match, a lot of the Undertaker reputation was damaged. And I saw that on social media. You see a lot of people saying, screw this guy, or just go away, or nobody wants to see this old man. And watching by this match, Undertaker did not miss a step. I was watching this match and thinking to myself, it seems as if Undertaker is, never left. He's moving and he's getting crowd reactions and responses as if he's one of the guys that's on TV every single Monday night. And here he is on a pay-per-view working against Drew McIntyre, who was impressive in this match, and Shane McMahon as well. But the dynamic of having Drew McIntyre and Undertaker, will we see that down the road? Who knows? But this match was hard hitting. Very impressed by Undertaker's work. Like I said, he was moving in there fast. He was agile. He was all over the place. Undertaker looked great, and another person that looked great in this match was Roman Reigns. He looked great in this match. He worked a total baby face, got the crowd into it. He worked on a lot of the majority of the middle of the match, but, towards that end, Undertaker was going to deliver a last ride of Shane McMahon onto the announce table, and here comes Elias. Another one of those Shane McMahon minions coming out here and saving him, and crashes guitar on him. Drew hits a Claymore on Roman, and it looks at this point like the advantages Drew and Shane, and now they got Elias out there, and it looks like this is going to be the end. But Undertaker's got a great comeback, and he rises up. Shane thinks he's going to put him out after he delivered a coast to coast to the Undertaker. Taker sits up. Great great capturing of facials in this match, and I think that's really what made this match really special. And really, this pay-per-view really special is just how it was presented, and that's counter to what we saw the night before. This was such a great match, and again, Undertaker looking great. There's this great shot of Undertaker about to deliver, a tombstone, and he's signaling for it, and up from behind comes Drew McIntyre, and the visualization of this is just perfect. Drew's about to hit Undertaker with a Claymore as soon as he turns around, but he gets hit with a spear by Roman Reigns. Undertaker delivers a tombstone to Shane McMahon, 1, 2, 3, and send them home. This was such an unbelievable match. Once again, go back and watch this if you missed it, or go back and watch it a second time, because like Michael Cole said at the end of this match, you got to really suck in these moments, take in these last moments with the Undertaker, because you never know if it's going to be the last time. If this was the Undertaker's last performance in a while or ever, it was impressive. And even more impressive was the end of this match, as Undertaker and Roman Reigns were face to face, and it looked pretty intense. It looked like Undertaker was eyeing Roman Reigns, and he got really up close in his face. And I don't read lips, but something about their face to face tells me that the Undertaker told Roman Reigns, "This is your yard now. Like, this is it. From me to you, it's yours now." And go back and watch this, because Roman Reigns' face really tells you that he was not expecting this stare down, and for the Undertaker to deliver whatever words he delivered to Roman, because it really hit him and it really impacted him. And he gave a smirk, but I think that was a smirk as into, wow, I impressed the big guy. I impressed the Undertaker, the Phenom, the legend, the constant of this company, and he's given me the reins, pun intended, to run with it. It was really a passing of the torch at that moment. But again, great match. I really think that this match could have been the main event. I don't understand why it wasn't the main event. And speaking of the main event, let's get into that, as we got Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins defending their women's championship and Universal Championship against Lacey Evans and Baron Corbin. And this main event, it really didn't do it for me, and I don't really think that it did it for the crowd there in Philadelphia. I really think, watching this, I was just thinking to myself, this could have been, a great match on an episode of Monday Night Raw. Maybe build it up, build it up for, like I said, a Raw. Just not a pay-per-view. And like I said, speaking of all those other matches that we saw earlier in the night, and to kick off the show with that Extreme Rules match, you only went a little bit down here from here, and this match really didn't do it for me, but didn't get my attention towards Baron Corbin hit the end of days on Becky Lynch, which that really set off Seth Rollins. And if working with Baron Corbin the last few months didn't piss Seth Rollins off enough, seeing Becky get hit with the end of days finally lit a fire under Seth Rollins' ass, which he went all out on Baron Corbin, delivered a curb stomp to Baron Corbin, 1, 2, 3. And that's it. Still, your women's Raw champion and Universal champion, Seth Rollins, but not too fast, because Seth Rollins' night is not over. And as promised from Paul Heyman, that it was a spoiler that Brock Lesnar would be cashing in his Money in the Bank by the end of this evening, and out comes the Beast Incarnate, Brock Lesnar. It looked like this was going to be one of those moments where Brock maybe not be cashing it in. But as soon as Brock got in there, he delivered a few German suplexes to Seth Rollins, took him to Suplex City. He made it clear that he's cashing in his Money in the Bank. And as soon as that referee rang that bell, Brock Lesnar went for the F5. And just like that, 1, 2, 3, new Universal Champion, Brock Lesnar, closing out the show. And it got a great reaction from the crowd. To me, it sounded like about 80-20 people. But again, anytime you get one of these Money in the Bank cash-ins, whether it's a heel or a face, it doesn't matter. It's going to get a great reaction from the crowd. And this crowd here in Philadelphia was hot this whole night. And to top it off with this, perfect way to end the show, because the way that this show ended, I was not going to want it to end just like Stomping Grounds and have just a lovey-dovey affair of, the champs, Becky and Seth, the man and the man. We got a good finish to here. We got Brock Lesnar, once again, Universal Champion. And it's not the last we would see of Brock Lesnar and Paul Heyman, because they get kicked off Monday Night Raw the next night as they were live from Long Island, New York. And Paul Heyman, you can't get enough of this guy. I mean, you really can't. This guy is just amazing when he's on the microphone. And here he was in front of a live audience presenting to us the new Universal Champion, but also very interesting about this opening segment. And I'm not, a big fan of these opening segments. I wish that they go away. I really like when they start off a show with just the match, but when you got an opening segment with Paul Heyman and he points out some interesting facts this week and he drops some very interesting news as well, he made it very clear, and this is the first time that it's being made, public and addressed out there, that Paul Heyman is indeed running Monday Night Raw. And part of running Monday Night Raw is that you have to find a new opponent for your beast incarnate, Brock Lesnar, who is also the new Universal Champion. And how do you do that? Paul Heyman came up with a brilliant idea tonight and have a 10-man cross-brand all-star superstar battle royal. I don't know. It was a tongue twister for me. It was a tongue twister for Paul as well. This was set up for the main event, and we'll get to the main event because this was a big eventful Monday Night Raw. And one of the biggest things that came out of Monday Night Raw this week was the debut, finally the debut of Bray Wyatt and his new character. He's being called The Fiend. I really like this. I love this segment. He came out and ambushed Finn Balor after Finn Balor had defeated Samoa Joe. What a way to make a debut. And this is definitely going well for WWE and for Bray Wyatt's character. I was captured by what I was seeing on TV, and that's one of the great things that I really like about this Bray Wyatt character. It's that, it's must-see television, but it's must-see television where you just pause all your thoughts. And we could be so critical when we're watching Monday Night Raw and SmackDown, but for that moment and for that segment, all thoughts aside, and you were just glued to the TV, and then you let it digest, and then you start having your ideas and start having your opinions about what you just saw. But I love it. And Finn Balor and Bray Wyatt, looks like we're going to be setting up a match here going into SummerSlam. And there's also news about Finn Balor wanting some time off. So it looks like we're going to get about a Finn Balor send-off here. Bray Wyatt character, I loved it. I love the visuals in here. And it leaves me wanting to see more. So kudos to WWE for playing this off. This really makes me feel more confident in WWE. If there's any, naysayers or people that are just, fed up with WWE and think that, it's going to go under once AEW comes in, I just don't believe that. And when I see, a character like Bray Wyatt and the presentation and where this can go, and how many people were just flipping through the channels and are either fans of horror, fans of monsters, fans of just anything obscure and paranormal, and they're flipping through the channels, and you're gonna come across someone like Bray Wyatt and you're gonna fucking be glued to that television screen, just like we all were for his debut this past Monday night. I think that just does favors for WWE and for business. It's going to make people want to, check him out. I love it. I really have lots and lots and lots and lots of confidence in WWE, and this Bray Wyatt character just, makes me feel all more confident that WWE is going to be okay. And, we've gone through some hardship times with dealing with what they present to us, but in the end, guys, when you get through it, when we get through this, we'll realize that it was all worth it, because you need to have your ups and downs to have your ups. So I really love this. So kudos to them. And also, like I said, this was an eventful episode of Monday Night Raw. There was also a women's Fatal 4-Way elimination to determine a new #1 contender to face the man, Becky Lynch, at SummerSlam. And this featured Carmella, Natalya, featured Naomi, and Alexa Bliss. And this was a great match. And I don't think the audience in Long Island really thought fondly of this match, as they took a shit on it. There was some boring chants, and there was some CM Punk chants through this match. I don't know what their deal was. I saw a great Fatal 4-Way match these girls went out there and had a great match out there. It was probably the longest match of the night, maybe the main event as well. But this match was great. It came down to, there was a point where it was Natalya, Alexa, and Naomi worked a lot of this match. She's very impressive in the ring, and her chemistry with Alexa Bliss, which they have a history, it's great. I really was pulling for Naomi for this because I think there's some dynamic elements that you can tell with Becky and Naomi. I don't think Becky's had an opponent like Naomi, and I think that's pretty interesting. Alexa Bliss and Becky, it would always be a good time. But in the end, guys, it was Natalya who picked up the victory here. And she's going to go on to face Becky Lynch. You might be thinking, Natalya really against Becky Lynch? That really, I don't think I'm really going to care much about this match. That's really kind of what I was thinking as well. And Becky Lynch came into the ring and was going to cut a promo. And once again, any time that it's Becky Lynch and a microphone, it's going to, be another one of those long stories about how hard she works. But in this case, it just seems like the Becky Lynch character has gotten a little bit annoying for me. And the way she portrays herself. And, I don't think that there was any signs of them continuing the story of Seth Rollins and them together, because there was no follow through on what they said last week, that both of them are going to make sure that neither one of them loses their title. But, Becky Lynch's character is just, snotty and just so stuck up. And I don't know if when she comes across on TV, it's like, I don't know if I want to cheer for her, because we all know it's so annoying that when there's a person that just believes their shit don't stink. But with Becky, she's one of those people that tells you her shit don't stink. And she had this line that, just fell flat. I think it was supposed to be one of those lines that, maybe gets the crowd going, ooh, but it just fell completely flat. And I don't think no one's taking Becky for real. And I don't think they should. I think a lot of that it's worn off. I really think that for me, the wheels really fell off leading into WrestleMania. I just didn't care about Becky anymore, and I didn't care about women's wrestling going into that WrestleMania. But here we have Natalya and Becky Lynch. And Natalya, if you want to talk about someone that, can get on the mic and cut a good promo, it's Natalya. And she let Becky have it here, and she had the last laugh. And I'm now much more interested in this match than I would have been if you would have told me that SummerSlam it's going to be Natalya and Becky Lynch. I would have been like, okay, not interested. But after their promo post-match, Natty looked for real. And that's one thing that I really liked about Natty, is that she came off more authentic than what Becky Lynch was coming off as. And Becky Lynch is playing the character of, like I said, she just thinks that her shit don't stink. And Natty naturally comes off as who she is. She is a veteran who's holding it down still for these many years in WWE and has no signs of giving up. And if she has an opportunity to go up against WWE Women's Champion and take it from her at SummerSlam, like she did last year over Naomi, then she's going to take that opportunity and do it. So I really like this feud going into SummerSlam. Really, really intrigued by this. And also, look, the women had a great week. Over on SmackDown, Charlotte and Liv Morgan went one-on-one, and it was the debut of Liv Morgan since being casted over to SmackDown Live. Though getting a loss to Charlotte, which, is acceptable. You're going up against Charlotte, and you're being presented as this kind of new superstar, but on your own now, because you're not a part of the Riot Squad. Although she still has that Riot Squad song. You got to do something about that. If you really want to present Liv Morgan and you give her a new coat of fresh paint, you got to give her a new theme song. And I love Liv Morgan. I've been looking forward to her, having success on her own on the main roster. And this looks to be the start of it. She's going in there with Charlotte, and by the looks of a post YouTube clip, it looks like there's something in the works there. And by post of match, Liv saying that when she comes back, she's going to be more real tells me that we haven't seen the last of Liv Morgan. And also Bayley picking Ember Moon to be her opponent at SummerSlam after they got a win against Fire and Desire this past week on SmackDown. So things are looking up for the women's division. There's rumors right now about bringing Ronda Rousey back because there isn't enough stars in WWE. I just don't think Ronda Rousey saved the women's division. Did it bring more eyes? I think if you're thinking about did it bring more eyes and help WrestleMania be what it was, sure. But do I think that does she contribute to the women's division? Absolutely not. So I don't want to see that. And one thing that I don't think really is contributing to the show, but we're getting it, it's the NXT Tag Team Champions, the Street Profits, as they've been being featured on television the past few weeks on Raw. And as we saw them on Raw this week, you know, I said having them show up here can be a little bit too much, and too much oversaturation of their characters and really more confusion. You know, if you're tuning in for the first time, which is what, you know, WWE, you know, banks off thinking that there's new viewership every single week all around the world, then you're being told that there's this set of tag team champions, there's this tag team champions, and then it's like, who are these guys, you know, and why aren't they wrestling? Oh, you have to watch them on their third brand. Look, I'm not knocking them for them giving them time and maybe, you know, slowly making them comfortable in the main roster setting, but I just don't think that having them cut these promos and kind of be a narrator for the shows helps them in the long run. I think overexposure is going to affect them because I think we're going to not really care about what they have to say or do because we see that so many times that, you know, what else they got, or they might be cornered into that they're just great talkers. So that's one thing. And Viking Raiders, if I can say one thing about them, is that they look great and impressive. I just don't want to see them go up against just local talent jobbers that, you know that they're going to win and you know that they're just going to kill them. I want to see real competition. I want to see them go out there and have a good match that's going to make me believe like these guys can go with the rest of the talent. I mean, if you're just beating local jobbers, then what makes me think that you're going to beat the top guys in WWE? Not much. So that's one thing that I would change. Miz TV this week featured Dolph Ziggler. You know, it finished with them getting in a brawl. Dolph Ziggler made a comment about Miz, you know, saying you're all about just fame and fortune and same as your wife, and that got Miz all hot, and they got in a brawl. But, you know, going back and watching this, I really thought a lot of the verbiage and a lot of the dialogue that they were saying, I was thinking it was going to be Dolph trying to tell Miz, like, dude, you got to be more serious, and like, what are you doing? You're pandering to audiences that aren't even your home. And when he brought up the Cleveland thing, I thought, whoa, is this going to like, hey, we're from Cleveland, like we're better than that, you know? We don't need to say that we're from Long Island. Long Island is awesome and make a t-shirt out of it. We need to make something that's more like, you know, Cleveland is awesome and rep that. And, you know, two guys with a tag team history, same longevity in the company. These two guys are, you know, the last of a certain generation, the ruthless aggression era. I think partnering these two guys up would have been a great idea, and it's not too late. It's not too late. These guys, there's a history between them. Dolph Ziggler was the best man, one of his groomsmen at his wedding, and these guys have been friends forever, you know. And there's still something there. I think if you bring Maurice into the picture and say, "Look, guys, stop with that. You guys are friends. Dolph, we have you over as seen on Miz and Mrs." But just have them, you know, come to a conclusion. They've had great rivalries and before. Dolph has put his career on the line, and just bury the hatchet and come together as a tag team. So I'd like to see that. The main event was great on Raw. As like I said, it was that 10-man All-Star Battle Royal. Find out who's going to be the #1 contender at SummerSlam for Brock Lesnar. This was a great finish to the show. I really like this a lot. The crowd was hot. You know, again, they shitted all over that women's Fatal 4-Way elimination early in the night, but they came around for this main event as, again, it was a star-studded main event when you got 10 guys in there who arguably could be in any of the championship main event pictures all in the ring. And you got Roman out there, of course, the crowd's going to pop. This was a great finish to the show, and that's one thing that I've been really focusing on is finishes to the shows. And it's really important because finishes to the shows, one, you know, keep you into the show, and watching the show, and also wanting more. And the finish, how you close the show, is so important. If I can tell a counter promotion how to close a show is like this, like how they did on Monday night. But Seth Rollins got the victory in this 10-man battle royal. He'll be going on to facing Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. I don't mind this. Seth Rollins, I think, is owed a rematch now. This is going to be their third match. It seems like, it's about their third match going into this. They did have the WrestleMania match. They've had the Money in the Bank cash-in, which is a match. And now they're going to go have the rubber match at SummerSlam. So look, things are looking up for the WWE. If you aren't liking this direction, there's many other directions. There's also the Kofi Kingston and Randy Orton. That looks like something that could be promising. There's a long history there. I really hope that they go back and capture that, because there's, we can look back at what happened back literally 10 years ago and literally come full circle and see that the tables have turned, and now Randy Orton is looking up at Kofi Kingston as Kofi as the main event top guy, WWE champion. So a lot to be told there. Kevin Owens story. The Kevin Owens story is one that's currently progressing. I'm not too big on it. Like I said in previous weeks, the Kevin Owens stop and go and turns. Is he good heel? When is he good or heel? Has made me pull back on being invested in the character. And now I just watch. But what I'm seeing is, they're really making that effort to present Kevin Owens as that baby face, and that, is going to be a fan favorite. And that's okay. It's just, I really see through it. Those turnarounds of character don't do it for me. But I don't mind. I don't get it. Here we have another Kevin Owens and Shane McMahon feud, and it's, it was the same thing a couple years ago, and it was just bad for SmackDown. It's just the roles are reversed now. But, the summer is looking good for WWE. It's a good time for wrestling. This was such a great week for wrestling. Again, and there's more wrestling this weekend, so I'm going to give you guys something to watch. If you guys want something to watch this weekend, check out MLW Fusion. They are on BN Sports. And if you don't have BN Sports, you should check it out and see if you have it on your streaming services or your cable provider. They also have their shows up on YouTube, and they're just like watching an episode of NXT. And this past week, it was a tag team ladder match between the Dynasty, which features MJF and Richard Holiday, going up against the champions Teddy Hart and Brian Pillman Jr. in the Hart Foundation. It's great action. Go back and watch that this week, and go and watch this weekend. It's a ML Fusion, a new show this week. And before we get out of here, I got to give you guys my MVPs and floppers of the week. My most valuable performers of the week are Taker and Reigns. I gave a lot of high praise to this match and the performance earlier in the show. So MVP performance from Undertaker and Roman Reigns on this one. But also I got to give it to another set of guys who worked their ass off this weekend, and that's Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley. That match was killer. The finish to it, and not just that, guys, but you got to think about what they did a couple of weeks ago with the opening of Raw and the explosions and what they put their bodies through, and to have a conclusion like this, last man standing and a hot crowd in Philadelphia, it was awesome. So kudos to them. I also got to include them as MVPs. And my floppers of the week, this is just what just didn't do it for me this week. And with a week full of so much wrestling and a variety of wrestling, a lot to pick from, AEW's Fight for the Fallen flop for me. I said it at the top of the show, it just didn't do it for me, guys. Overall, the wrestling that I saw this week it just didn't do it for me. It flopped. That's it for me, guys, this week. I'm get out of here. I hope you guys have a great weekend. Enjoy it. Come back and do it again next week, but be sure to check us out over on Twitter at Speaking Wrestle and over on Instagram at Speaking Wrestling. And don't forget to go over on YouTube and like and subscribe, guys. Have a great weekend. Do it again next Friday. Bye-bye.